Hunter Renfrow is signed to the Carolina Panthers last week, so we're going to touch on that a little bit, give our thoughts and opinions. I'll kick us off, and then obviously we'll just have an open dialogue. This room is exceptionally deep. I don't think I've seen a wide receiver room go from what it was last year to what it is currently in such a short amount of time. Like, there are weapons. And so when we had a conversation, right, and this is not to dogpile on Bryce or anything like that, like, but I think Tavian said something about it. Actually, I don't know. This may have been a live stream with Duncan Lowe when we started talking about Bryce Young and his expectations or whatever the case may be. The first thing that I'm going to say is there's just simply no excuses at all this year. There's no excuses at all this year. And I already told y'all 2 weeks ago that I will not be shitting on Bryce Young any longer. So I won't be doing that. But I promise you I'm going to leave it to my co-host and my producer to do it if things don't go properly. And if they can't do it, I'm going to have to, unfortunately, renege on my word because there's just simply no excuses at all. That's the first thing that I'll say. Second thing I'll say, great signing from the Carolina Panthers. Everybody wants to talk about he hasn't played football, he hasn't done this, he hasn't done that. When you go out and you go sign a nigga that hasn't played football since he was in the 7th grade and absolutely has no film, stats, or anything like that past that point in the tight end, what is his name? Granger, whatever.
It's not even worth.
It's not even worth. You're absolutely right. It's not mentioning. But when you do something like that, I expect you to go get a Hunter Renfrow if he's available and his agent calls you and says, we're looking for an opportunity and we would love to come home. So another phenomenal move by Dan Morgan and makes this room even deeper. And we're going to touch on that and dive into that a little bit more because last year, while I was at training camp, I was telling y'all the whole time that we had to keep 6 receivers just based on training camp and what I was seeing. And just the production that we were getting from TMJ at the beginning and then Mingo towards the end. And then the Carolina Panthers decided to only keep 5. This year, unfortunately, you can't do that. We may be having a conversation about keeping 7. But we'll talk about it. How do you feel about Hunter Renfrow?
Yeah, I love the signing. I mean, obviously, I'm basing that off of what I seen him do when he was playing. If you just go turn on the film, exceptional route running. He makes a lot of y'all's favorite DBs look silly. Very reliable. He played great in Las Vegas, even though they didn't really have that much. But he was, one of the better receivers that they had. So, I mean, I think it's a great signing. And like you said, makes the wide receiver room, like, really, really deep. And I think a lot of these guys are going to hopefully have to be able to play special teams because it's going to come down to the point where I think some of y'all's favorite guys or even draft people that we drafted or signed unrestricted free or undrafted free agents, people are going to end up getting cut, unfortunately, because I just don't know if you're able to keep as many receivers as we do have. But I think Hunter Renfrow brings great competition to the room. I think everybody's going to have to be on their toes, and everybody's going to have to play the best football of their lives in that room in particular when it comes to training camp in the offseason.
Yeah, I love the signing of Hunter Renfrow. I will say it makes me a little bit worried about Jalen Coker in the sense of the room is getting a little bit crowded. And as a UDFA, although he had a really good season last year, how much of an opportunity will he continue to get just because of, like, we all know salary, the amount you get paid plays a part into it. Your draft position plays a part into it. XL isn't losing his spot. Tet isn't losing his spot. Adam Thielen, we anticipate, probably won't be losing his spot as either if he's healthy. Hunter Renfrow is going to come in and probably surpass him because of his body of work in the NFL. So it keeps, every time I look up, it's like Jalen Coker keeps getting pushed a little bit further down the depth chart, and I really don't want to see that happen for the kid.
And not to cut you off, but you also brought in Jimmy Horn in the draft, who provides you with something that nobody else in the room does, just to further your point.
Yeah, and we'll touch on that later because I thought there was something interesting that was said in the presser or the interview that Thomas Davis and Dan Morgan had with
on Panthers Huddle.
Yeah, because I think Jimmy Horn's going to be completely different animal, but he will make the team though. I'll go ahead and spoil that. Jimmy Horn will be on this roster. So yeah, I just hope that this signing doesn't impact the amount of touches and opportunities that Jalen Coker gets. especially after what we saw him do last season.
Yeah.
But yeah,
But I do like the Hunter Renfrow signing, though.
Yeah, and I think all of that has to be based on if Hunter Renfrow, like obviously, how many years did he take off? 1, 2?
Just one.
1 year.
And it was a severe.
And it was an illness.
Yeah, it was a
he
severe
had a health
illness.
condition.
Yeah.
Which I think, as a human being, as a man going into that room, I think is going to be a great addition because he's somebody who literally is like the literal embodiment of perseverance and pushing through adversity. And I think, and he's experienced in the league. He's going to be a great person and influence to have in that locker room, especially on the younger guys.
Yeah, and that's why I think it's a great signing. But all in all, it might not be enough to, land him a spot on the team, unfortunately. And I think like you said, we're going to touch more on that. But this is all going to be based on if Hunter Renfrow comes back to be the same receiver that he was when he retired, quote unquote.
Yeah. Just to add on to your point a little bit as well, that was something that Dan Morgan, I believe he touched on it on Pat McAfee this past week because he did like 20, 25 minutes. I mean, shout out to Pat McAfee and the job that they do. I love their show. Like, I don't think I ever would have thought that ESPN out of all platforms would be getting the amount of coverage, I guess, that he's been getting. Like, just like a 25-minute conversation with a random NFL GM. Like, I feel like that's unheard of. I'm sure it's happened before, but as consistently as it happens with, like, mega names, not including Dan Morgan in this situation, but, like, you got Belichick. You got Aaron Rodgers that pulls up. Brady was pulling up weekly for a time or another. Like, It's just crazy, bro. It's just crazy. So, shout out to them.
And I'm sure it helps Dan Morgan being obviously Dan Morgan's a bro.
Yes, absolutely.
And Pat McAfee's 100%
a bro.
So I'm
sure.
sure that tidbit or that relationship helps out a lot too.
Yeah, and I think if you were watching Pat McAfee before, like as wild as he is, I never thought that ESPN would be the ones that picked him up. But
Facts.
It's great on their part because he used to say some wild shit and do some wild shit.
And he still does.
He's toned it down a little bit.
Yeah.
Yes,
but
because
it's
Disney.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's Disney. So, like, you're only going to go so far. But in that same breath, it is Disney. So you have a free reign to do a little more stuff than, other companies that tend to lean a little more conservative in that aspect. So it's just a perfect marriage, in my opinion. Perfect marriage. And, I mean, the bag that he got.
Insane. And they got a lot of resources and a lot of sources. That's where y'all supposed to say sis.
Okay.
That's what they do on the show. Y'all don't watch. Y'all ain't tapped in for real. y'all ain't tapped in for real.
Okay, my fault. We missed it. I'll just be watching the interviews. My fault. You got to teach us more. But, this wide receiver room has gotten a lot more interesting. And the reason why it's even more interesting to me is because, like, you talk about Jalen Coker, and we can go ahead and have the conversation now just because this segue was good enough. You talk about Jalen Coker and the production that you think or lack of opportunities he'll have to produce heading into the season if he even makes the roster. And what's kind of confusing and challenging for me, I guess, to, like, say 6 names that are guaranteed to be in is the fact that now everybody in that room are Dave Canales guys with the exception of Adam Thielen. And just based on the production that you've gotten from Adam Thielen, there's just simply nothing that can happen to him. Like, I'm not going to hold you. Like, we're going to have a real conversation if Adam Thielen ends up getting cut. Now, if you trade him, obviously all of this is hypothetical, but if you trade him, then cool. I can live with that. But based on the production that you've gotten from Adam Thielen, him being your top receiver the past 2 years, even with the injury last year, that's why it gets a little challenging. And then, like I said, everybody now that's in that room, if you look at David Moore, you look at Nalo, you look at Excel, Coker, Jimmy Horn, all of these guys are guys that Canales and Morgan have agreed on and have given the opportunity to play for the Carolina Panthers. So the room is very, very crowded right now. It is, right? And if you look at it, you would think, just based on, like you said, the body of work in the NFL, you would think that David Moore would potentially be the first odd man out. But in that same breath, it's just like, is he though?
He should be.
From
the outside looking in, he should be.
He should be as well.
But will he? Because he is a Canales guy.
He loves him. Canales and his whole staff just love David Moore, and I just don't understand why, to be quite frank.
I mean, he's followed him pretty much everywhere he's been. And we don't know what type of work he does like behind the scene. He might be like a really hardworking guy. Probably is. I mean, he's in the NFL.
Yeah, are we
but
going
like,
to reward that, or are we going to reward production and guys that have you to give you the best opportunity?
I'm not saying I agree with it. I'm just trying to rationalize why he would be ever considered to be picked over any of the other names that we just named.
Yeah, I mean, I think something that can also be overlooked is like you also got to make sure that these guys are the guys that Bryce wants as well. Because I think that plays a big part. Like Dave Canales, obviously he's the head coach. He's making a lot of the decisions, and Dan Morgan. But Dave Canales isn't out there throwing the ball. He's not out there building that chemistry and connection with the receivers. So, and I think David Moore. I mean, our wide receiver room was obviously mediocre last year, but David Moore was one of the more reliable targets for Bryce Young because, unfortunately, XL couldn't really get it together at a certain point. So, I mean, David Moore could be a Bryce guy. We just don't know, and it makes it tough not being able to see training camp, not being able to be at training camp to kind of see those connections and that chemistry.
That pisses me off even more.
This is such a great year to go to see this battle that's about to take place in this receiver room.
Because it's like also they did sign a lot of rookies, a lot of rookie wide receivers as well, and I mean, I feel like you got to give those guys a shot too. Like they have to have a fair shake at it in training camp as well. So, like that's why I was saying like a lot of y'all's favorite guys or guys that you think would fit well on the team might end up being guys who are the odd man out, unfortunately, i.e. a David Moore.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And the way that the social media team for the Carolina Panthers has been gassing Hunter Renfrow up, it just makes it very, very hard for me to believe that he's going to be the odd man out.
I do love those sexy slow-mo videos, though, where he's breaking them down.
He be going crazy. His route running is insane. And to me, like if we're just having an honest conversation, he damn near is just another Adam Thielen.
Just younger.
Just a younger version of him.
Right, he is.
He's only 29. So that makes me even more skeptical. That's why I even brought up the idea of Adam Thielen potentially being cut, because it's just like he only has one more year on his contract.
Yeah.
This past week he was talking about retirement and just that whole process, like what it looked like with his family and everything like that. And then he said, obviously he doesn't know what the future holds, but again, this is his last year with the Carolina Panthers contractually. So I don't know. It makes things very, very interesting.
I think he's playing one more season though. I mean,
he's playing this year.
But I think after this year, that's when the conversation is. But I don't think he would get cut. I mean,
why? Make your argument for him not to be cut. Yeah, the production, but at the same time, if I get a guy that's younger than you, that runs routes better than you, and that's a little bit quicker than you, and he's telling me that he's healthy after the major illness he had, he took a year off.
Right. But
yeah,
I could have two of you. Like just because I know your health is unreliable, and I know this guy almost died a year ago. Am I really going to put my full faith that he's going to be the guy that I lean on all season too? Like, or I could just keep y'all both, and then David Moore, you're the odd man out because I have better versions of you. I feel like Jalen Coker is better than David Moore. Tet is better than David Moore.
T-Mac.
XL
he doesn't want to be called Tet. Him and his mom said don't call him Tet.
I'm not calling him T-Mac.
So then you know
that's reserved for.
So then you know what you need to call him. Then I should have brought my fucking jersey. I should have had my jersey on backwards. Hey, the Nalo jersey came in. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Nah, you're good. Tetaroa McMillan.
There we go. That works.
Is better than David Moore.
Yes.
Xavier Legette.
Can we not do it, bro? Can we not do it today?
I was gonna say. Hold on. I just had to. Xavier Legette is better than David Moore. Just say it a little bit more quiet.
I was like, but you can't you can't do all that for Tet and then say
right for somebody that hasn't even played a down of football in the NFL.
Bro, I'm dicking around because y'all know how it gets with XL on this show. But
I need my jersey. I'm probably gonna order it tonight.
Yeah, I just feel like you just have names that are, and then I think Jimmy Horn is going to be better than David Moore, and that's where I feel like if you're talking about somebody who's younger, quicker, runs better routes, it would be David Moore versus Jimmy Horn. And I think Jimmy Horn's going to be better than David Moore.
What does that room look like, depth chart-wise? What does that room look like right now to you guys?
Why don't we just do you got to keep 6, right?
You got to keep 6?
6 is bare minimum. If you just go pull up the Panthers roster on ESPN.
And what do we have, 8? Or have we been talking about 8, or have we been talking about 7?
We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13.
No. We're not going to them because all of those are undrafted free agents.
Yeah, but you got guys like Moose Muhammad III. I think that his name alone, like just based off of there could be a little bit of nepotism there.
Practice squad.
You know how stuff gets. But I'm just saying, like, you got guys like that who you got to take into account. Jacoby George played at Miami, played with Cam Ward. So, I mean, that's why you got to name those guys because you got, it's just a lot of guys on the list. So,
okay. Well, I mean,
just pull up the list and keep your 6, basically.
My 6 is very, very simple and easy. Renfro, Thielen, and this is in no particular order, obviously, because I believe that XL is going to be wide receiver 1 this year. I do. As much as I gas Nalo up, I think that the conversation that you guys don't want to have is the fact that XL is going to be an extreme beneficiary from the Carolina Panthers picking Nalo. Because now the pressure of him having to be wide receiver 1 is off of him.
I'm not saying it's not a conversation we want to have.
I wasn't talking about you.
I was about to say,
I was talking about them.
I hope he is. I hope he's that guy.
Yeah, no. I think that in your heart, I do believe that I can agree that you hope that. But you just get up here and get the hating. And I just don't know why.
He ain't really showed us shit.
Did you see him at the Kentucky Derby?
I mean, that's all who the fuck they were posting. So, and then they asked him, like, what he had to say about, all the fans saying that, they ain't seen him catching no balls, running no routes, but he all in all this other shit. I didn't really get to hear his response, but I know that was the question that they posed to him.
Well, he had a comment. Let me see if I can find it because he actually. So y'all two may not be familiar with this guy, but he does a podcast as well. His name is 2 Growls, 1 Roar, or I think he switched it now.
I heard him before.
2 shows, 1 host. So shout out to him. But he said this was the initial post was from 2 Growls, 2 shows, 1 host. I'm going to be respectful. He changed the name. So he said Panthers fans that are upset that he isn't spending every second of his day training are losers.
I seen that.
Smartest marketing partnership in a while. Just because you don't see 500 videos of him running routes on air doesn't mean he isn't working. And then XL commented with the salute emoji, and then he said, I live in the lab at 2 shows, 1 host, speak it with a handshake emoji. So that's what he had to say, kind of, in response to people like us. I guess, because we've been on his top. And all of that is great and it's cute. And I can do the same thing on Twitter. But
you got to show me.
Yeah, I was about to say, and this is where we kind of have to go slow because I feel like I've been XL enthusiast as it pertains to this podcast in particular. Just go slow, nigga. That's fine. I just see a lot of more people that post a lot more things and do a lot more work than I've seen XL do. That's it. That's the only thing that I say.
A lot of y'all want to be, this might be controversial, but
okay.
A lot of y'all, it's a lot of politics that go into it. Y'all would rather be on the player's good side and buddy, but on this pod, we really don't give a fuck. I'll just be honest.
Yeah,
so we're just going to call it how we see it. So it's cool that we might be losers or whatever the fuck it may be, but until he shows us, then it is what it is. I'm standing on what I said. We ain't seen you put in no work. And based on what I seen last year, I'm going to need you to show me. Because I think that's why the Panthers went and drafted Ted. And I'm going to stand by that. So it is what it is.
Yeah. And I mean, if you don't believe that that's the case and you're a Carolina Panthers fan, I would challenge your ability to see things clear. To be quite frank. And I mean, I really wanted to say it another way, but we have a guest in here, so I'm going to be respectful. But, I mean, it's just damn near dick eating at its finest if you feel like, oh, he's done enough or, the Carolina Panthers didn't have any motivation or any internal conversations regarding, we just quite don't know if XL is that guy. Because if that was the case, then they wouldn't have went and got Nalo.
Because if XL would have had a year like Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas.
Not even a conversation.
Then I don't think Ted would have been in the conversation. But he didn't. So
and Dan Morgan at some point or another with all of the media that he's done over the past week made the comment that Nalo has been their boy since January. Since January.
So since the season ended, and we knew XL fucked off.
Yeah, long story short. So, like, that's cool. Like, I'm happy that you live in the lab, XL. And I hope that you're being honest about that. Because if not, then it's just going to be another situation of these two motherfuckers coming on the podcast saying I can't evaluate talent.
I just find it very hard to believe that you've been in the lab as much as you're alluding to right now when I see a TikTok account with you on a farm 24/7, and anybody who's ever worked on a farm knows how much effort and time it takes you got to put into them animals. So I just find it hard to believe that you're really in the lab the way that you say you are. But hey,
that's producer Tavian. I believe you have. I believe you, bit.
Maybe you have farm hands or something helping you out around the property.
There you go. Boy, it's sad. Just what we was talking about. I believe you, big bro. It's just sad, bro.
But yeah, okay. So back to the original point because we kind of went sidetracked there. So I'm gonna give my 6, and I think that y'all probably will align with it, but I'll give y'all the floor. And I'll go in order for the sake of the conversation. I'm going to go XL because I believe XL is going to be wide receiver 1. Nalo, Thielen, just based on production. I want to say Coker bad. I'm going to say Coker. Coker, Renfro, Jimmy. That's the 6 for me personally. If they decide to keep 6, that's the 6 that you keep. But I'm interested to hear because, like you said, you made a couple of great points about David Moore, as did Dunk when we were on the live stream and things of that nature about his relationship with Canales and how it always seems like where Dave Canales goes, David Moore goes, and as long as Dave Canales is in the league, David Moore will have a job. So I am interested to hear what you guys have to say.
I'm going to go switch it up a little bit. I'm going to go Tet. I'm going to go XL. I'm going to go Adam Thielen, Jalen Coker, Hunter Renfro, and Jimmy Horn. So same just a little bit out of order.
No, I was the same. I think
I had Tet.
As
one.
Yeah.
Okay, got you.
And I'm not.
He should be. If you go top 10, you should be. But I digress.
Yeah, I'm not going to repeat it. I have the exact same list as Terrence.
Okay, cool.
So that leaves David Moore as the odd man out.
David Moore is the odd man out. I think that if David Moore is cut and it's a play that they try and make where he's cut and bring him back for the practice squad for him to clear waivers and all of that, they might be screwed. They might be screwed in that situation.
I think that's the case with a lot of these receivers, though.
They're going to try. You don't just go out with the current wide receiver room that you have or that you had after the draft. You knowing that you were getting Renfro, you don't just go out and sign all of these receivers just to fill out a 90-man roster. You just don't do it. You just don't do it because there are other needs, which the Carolina Panthers did address, and we'll break down the undrafted free agent class a little bit next week. I haven't personally had time enough to do enough digging and research to give you guys good information, knowledgeable information. So we're just going to hold off for a week, but we will break that down next week. But yeah, I don't think that you go out and sign all of those guys assuming that they make the 53. I think a lot of those guys are going to be practice squad bodies, at least attempting to be practice squad bodies. But obviously, we all know the risk you run with that.